Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. I'm Seth Merrow. Thanks for joining us. Coming up today, a little bit later on, we will be joined by Ellis Star, the national racing analyst from Equibase. He's going to take a look at some of those Belmont stakes. Also, there's a nice stake tomorrow up at Woodbine we'll preview as well. We also hope to be joined by Brian Bouye from the National Museum of Racing and Hall of Fame as they introduced the class for 2022 earlier this week. So we'll talk a little bit about the incoming Hall of Fame class with Brian a little bit later as well. Again, hoping to make some connection with him. In the meantime, I will hit on some racing news. We talked a little bit about it on the Handicapper's Report and certainly mentioned it yesterday as it happened, but jockey Dylan Davis, 1,000th career victory, and Anthony Marmino was in and said that was pretty fast in 10 years. I pulled up the Equibase stats. I'm looking at them right here. Started the career in 2012, so a 10-year career, and it's been the last 5-6 years really riding and putting up numbers. There's a bar graph here on Equibase and putting up very good numbers. Currently, I believe, I had pulled it up earlier, I believe he is currently, in fact, the leading rider at Belmont. And yes, as I pull it up, Dylan Davis sitting with 13 wins, Irad Ortiz 11, Jose Lezcano and Manny Franco both with 10. So Dylan Davis had a great winter in New York, continues to ride very well down at Belmont, and congratulations to Dylan on getting his 1,000th career victory. And it was nice after, if you go to Twitter, go to the Naira feed on Twitter, and you can see a little video of the winner's circle afterwards. And those milestones for trainers or jockeys, they always have the poster they hold up with the number of wins, which he did in the win photo. But then after the horse left, they had Dylan stand there with the poster, and the jockey colony came out as well, which I think is a tribute to him. Obviously, a popular guy amongst the other jockeys in the room as they all came out to help him celebrate his 1,000th victory. So congratulations to him. And then I want to say credit where credit is due. I think it was the Brooklyn Cowboy who tweeted out yesterday and had looked up the wins for the rest of the family. Dylan, a couple of sisters, including Jackie, who won on the card yesterday as well. A couple of sisters as jockeys. Their dad, of course, Robbie Davis, a longtime jockey. And I think he had calculated, I want to say, 5,400 wins. And he kind of speculated, is there any other, father-sibling team of, a family out there that has put together that many wins in their respective careers? And hard to think that would be the case. So again, congratulations to Dylan Davis, and fun to kind of recognize the family as well. Wanted to note, yesterday it came out, this time of year, every year, the Maryland Jockey Club honors some media people for the work they did the previous year on the Preakness, and they'll announce it here a week before. And then I think it is next Friday or Thursday. It is next Thursday, it seems like. Yeah, next Thursday. There is the Alibi Breakfast, and that's where they honor these media people, writers and photographers, who, again, get honored for their work last year at the Preakness. And I want to bring it up because being honored next week down at Pimlico at the Alibi Breakfast, our own Mike McAdam from the Daily Gazette in Schenectady gets honored for his Preakness story titled "Preakness Winner Rombauer Runs Out of the Baffert Shadow." And the Blood Horse article lists Mike's award-winning credits prior to 2012. He won the Joe Hirsch Writing Award for the Belmont Stakes coverage. And I didn't realize it, but he was recently named the Sports Writer of the Year by the New York Press Association for the second time in the last 3 years. So our friend Mike McAdam knocking it out of the park with the various awards, including upcoming next week, the award for his work down in Maryland, honoring the writing he did last year, looking at the 2021 Preakness. So again, hats off to Mike McAdam on that. Also being honored is photographer Patrick Smith for his work as well. So again, congratulations there. Early voting gets his final work for the Preakness. There was a Dave Grenig article in the Racing Forum yesterday where Chad Brown talks about, bypassing the Derby, and they recall the name of Cloud Computing, who they pretty much are following a similar type of a path in that Cloud Computing had talent, had the potential to go to the Derby, but they said, you know what, that's a lot to ask for a lightly raced horse. Let's wait and take a shot at the Preakness, and they were rewarded for that. They will see if they can do the same thing this year with early voting. Chad Brown quoted in the article as saying, I think the time is on his side, certainly being rested, and he's continuing to improve, which is why we skipped the Derby. We're allowing him to keep developing, and I'm seeing that now. From the wood to now, he's getting faster and stronger. So early voting going to be very, very dangerous. They worked yesterday, 5 furlongs in a minute, .67. Chad Brown again quoted as saying, I couldn't be more impressed with the work today. He added that it was likely that Zandon would bypass. Said he's going to wait until Sunday to make a final decision on Zandon. But he said it was likely he was going to freshen Zandon up for a try at the Jim Dandy and the Travers up at Saratoga. So early voting on track. Zandon on the sidelines, it looks like, potentially for a little bit, for a freshener for a summer campaign. Although, again, that decision won't be made until it sounds like tomorrow as far as, potentially showing up in the Preakness or not. Preakness field at this point, what are we, the probables at this point, 3, 6, 9, we have 11 in here, although Zandon is still on this list. So 10, Creative Minister, Early Voting, Epicenter, Happy Jack, Rattle and Roll, Secret Oath, Shake 'em Loose, Simplification, Skippy Longstocking, and Un Ojo in the mix as probables for the Preakness a week from today. And boy, Epicenter has just looked so good so far. To me, he's going to be solid, albeit early voting clearly going to take a lot of action as well. Interested to see where the betting public is going to go with Secret Oath. I think she's going to have to improve a little bit, but she adds some intrigue to the race. And I like Simplification in the Derby as being a player. He was a player running fourth in there and right in the mix as they got to the wire. So Simplification, again, kind of interesting in the Preakness as well. And if you haven't guessed from the list I read there and you haven't heard, Rich Strike is going to skip the Preakness. That was announced a couple of days ago. It was interesting, Jay Privman's article in the Daily Racing Forum titled Derby Winner Rich Strike Will Skip the Preakness. You go down a few paragraphs and he starts on a paragraph with, the last Derby winner at the time of the Preakness who missed the Preakness was Country House in 2019. And when I read that sentence, I had to kind of read it once, and then I realized, oh, well, Mandaloun skipped the Preakness, but he was not the Derby winner at the time of the Preakness, given the disqualification situation. So again, in 2022, I guess you have to have your article worded like that. And subsequently, Privman, notes that last year Medina Spirit crossed the wire first in the Derby. He finished third in the Preakness, later disqualified, and that makes Mandaloun the winner. And then he says Mandaloun did not run in the Preakness. So, counting Country House, Mandaloun, and Rich Strike, 3 of the last 4 official winners of the Derby will have skipped the Preakness. Kind of an interesting side note there, as it were. But the game plan and their connections, the trainers quoted as saying, Rich Strike, we felt like maybe the Preakness just isn't the right fit for the horse. The horse is fine. We'll look forward to running in the Belmont. So it looks like that'll be the game plan to show up in the Belmont with Rich Strike, but on the sidelines for next weekend's Preakness Stakes. Why don't we take a break, and we'll once again see if we can reach out and make connection with Brian Bouye, and if not, we will continue. I have some more news and notes, and towards the bottom of the hour, Ellis Star will preview some of the stakes action. So all of that coming up. Stay tuned.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. In front, but here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Falbrough. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a three-horse photo finish in the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. We've reached out to Brian Bouye from the National Museum of Racing a couple times, haven't been able to make connection. So if we can't get him this morning, we'll plug him in, maybe tomorrow or next week, but we'll get an update on the 2022 Hall of Fame class. Beholder and Tepin, the two notable names, the two current names. Otherwise, we're looking at entrants from the Historical Review Committee and Pillars of the Turf. Some consternation that Kona Gold didn't make it this year. Christophe Clement didn't get in, but Beholder and Tepin, certainly two worthy entrants that will be getting into the Hall of Fame this year during the ceremony, as happens every August up in Saratoga. And as I say, we'll catch up with Brian at some point and get a little update on that, and a little update also on some of the summertime events coming up. The museum always has a great schedule of events. I talked to some folks who were at the museum last Saturday for a Kentucky Derby party. They said they had a good crowd there, and a raucous crowd that enjoyed the Kentucky Derby, maybe until they came under the wire, but it sounds like it was a fun afternoon at the museum last week for the Kentucky Derby. All right, I pulled up, and again, we've been looking at these the past couple of weeks. Jenny Reese and the Kentucky HBPA just do a great job leading into some big races down in Kentucky. And Kentucky Derby and Triple Crown time as they move out of Kentucky to go to Baltimore and then to New York. The Kentucky HBPA will also concentrate on some Kentucky horses and horsemen to follow up with. And Jenny, just a couple of days ago, Jenny Reese did a nice interview with Wayne Lukas, who, of course, is going to take the Kentucky Oaks winner, Secret Oath, and try the Preakness a week from today. And I thought it would be fun to kind of take a look at that and get Wayne Lukas's thoughts on the filly facing the boys a week down the road. And again, Jenny Reese does a great job with these interviews. So up next, a few minutes, again, recorded, I think on Thursday afternoon, some time with Wayne Lukas, trainer of Secret Oath.
And who might be going, trying to get a feel of the race and everything. Checked her another day, and found that she was full of life and playing out there. So we decided that, we'd take a shot and go.
You had said that if she didn't go there, she'd be waiting until July 23rd for the Coaching Club American Oaks at Saratoga.
We're going to wait for that one anyhow. After the Preakness, she'll have an 8-week break, which is important. We'll give her that full 8-week break, point her for the Coaching Club, and then she'll get another month before we run into Alabama. Those are the two that we're actually trying to get her ready for. But the Preakness, I think it's a decent fit. I think we're very competitive in there with those horses. I have the greatest respect for some of those horses that ran in the Derby, and it will not be easy, but she'll make the race very interesting. Yes. I don't think the race was extremely hard on her out there. They're all tough, but she was under a cruise speed down the backside, and then she made that big run. But we wanted to see a couple of days to see where we're at, and it looks like we're in pretty good shape.
You were pretty much a trendsetter in American racing on dirt, running fillies against the boys. I mean, the grass is sort of a different thing, but Winning Colors, Life's Magic, Althea, Serena Song. Yeah. What is it about this filly that you think she's up to the task?
Well, we handicapped the race, which we're very poor at. We're not very good at it, but we did handicap the race and come to the conclusion that she was competitive in the race. That's the main thing. And then her her physical condition is the other thing. That's the only two factors we have to put into it.
But you like the idea of her, if she can add a classic on her resume, even a classic placing to her resume. She already has a third against boys in the Arkansas Derby. You're thinking big picture with her.
Absolutely. If she would put the Preakness on her resume, it's going to take her to another level, and she'll now be thinking, there'll be the media members, your colleagues, will start thinking of her as one of the really good ones. So it's a good jump. If we can pull it off, it's going to be exceptional for her.
Is her style a good one for taking on boys in a race like the Preakness? Winning Colors, of course, had that speed that she kept going with, and this filly.
Well, this filly's got a little better dimension in that area. She stalks them and then makes them run. She doesn't have to be near the pace. She can come from back, but she's very versatile, very manageable. So Lewis will be able to manage her depending on how the race unfolds.
You also have Ethereal Road that you've decided he'll go in the Sir Barton.
Right.
Can you talk about him and how he's done since his Lexington?
He had a really good work yesterday. Really was impressive. And worked him in a flat at 5/8, galloped out in 112. He looked very good. We'll run him in the Sir Barton, maybe build his confidence, try to get a win, and if he does really well in there, then we'll jump into the Belmont. Yeah, he's a little bit one-dimensional, though. He's got to have a pace up front. He's got to be able to navigate the sweeping turns, and he's got some things to carry with him. So if he runs well in the Sir Barton, so be it. If he does that, then I think the Belmont will be a good fit.
That race has produced the Belmont winner before, Kenny McPeak Sarava. That was, I think, still the record at 70-1 to win the.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
And what about going back to Old Hilltop, where you had so much success?
It's just a fun place. It's a great place to race. Of all the Triple Crown races, the Belmont, the Derby, or that one, Pimlico's the most enjoyable. It's more relaxing. The trainers are all a little bit more relaxed. The hospitality is second to none, and it's just a fun day.
With all the horses that we talked yesterday about, the 2 weeks has been a very good turnaround time for you. All of your Preakness winners, except for Codex, who wasn't eligible for the Derby.
Yeah, we've had good luck on the turnaround, and it's a factor. You got to put it in there. You got to be concerned about it. The likely favorite, Epic Center, has looked very good this week too. So I think he will be a legitimate favorite.
How do you just have to run your own race against a horse like that, who showed he had some versatility in the Derby?
Yes, he's just a damn good horse. He's got good speed, tactical speed. He can be rated. He's just a very good horse.
But you don't let you just worry about what your horse is doing.
That's right. We can't. We got to run ours. We can't train the others or run the others.
Wayne Lukas, as you can see there, is wearing the safety vest. Why? He still gets up on the horses in the morning. The octogenarian Wayne Lukas headed to the Preakness next week with Kentucky Oaks winner Secret Oath. That's a really nice story. I mean, we've been saying he was going to be a good story for months now, since Secret Oath kind of came onto the scene down at Oaklawn and stamped herself as a player, at least in the Oaks, and then there was some speculation, who knows, maybe the Derby. But we were saying, regardless, have Wayne Lukas, the venerable Wayne Lukas, show up Oaks Derby weekend was going to be one of the nice storylines. It was, and she gets it done in the Oaks. And now another addition to the storylines of the Preakness as well. We will see what Secret Oath can do next week. I think she's up against it a little bit with the likes of Epicenter and early voting, but we'll see. Again, at the very least, very, very intriguing storyline there. Speaking of storylines, always enjoy the American horses heading over to Ascot. And when we do connect with Brian Bouye and talk about the Hall of Fame class, Tepin, and as we said earlier on the Handicappers Report, probably the exclamation point that got her into the Hall of Fame was that win over at Royal Ascot for her and the Queen Anne. Well, Pizza Bianca for Bobby Flay is going to be heading over to Royal Ascot as well. But prior to that, we'll be seen in the Hilltop Stakes next Friday at Pimlico. That will be a prep for the move over to Royal Ascot. Pizza Bianca, who looked so good last year as a 2-year-old, she won the 2021 Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly Turf out of Del Mar last year for owner and breeder Bobby Flay. Pizza Bianca made her 3-year-old debut in the Memories of Silver Stakes last month at Aqueduct. She was beaten 3/4 of a length by Consumer Spending. Should benefit from that. It's had a couple of works, according to the Dave Grenig DRF article, a couple of works over Belmont's turf course since that race. Owned by, as I say, celebrity chef Bobby Flay, and they're looking for the Group 1 Coronation Stakes June 17th at Royal Ascot. And it was interesting, somewhere in the article here, Bobby Flay says something to the effect of, that's kind of my Derby. Oh, it right in that paragraph, that Coronation Stakes at Royal Ascot is, and then in quotes, is like my Derby. So Bobby Flay heading over to try Royal Ascot with Pizza Bianca. And as I said, always fun to see the American horses go over and try. Royal Ascot being really one of the premier race meets in the world. You have 5 days of absolute top-class racing, and Wesley Ward has invaded now for a number of years, and successfully, too, for the Wesley Ward horses. But over the years, other Americans have tried, including Mark Casse and his connections with Tepin going over. And as I say, to see the Americans go over and try that, Americans have done very well in Dubai, but Dubai for years, it's Americans going over and doing well on the dirt. Not that there haven't been successes on turf, or when they were racing synthetic over there, but Dubai is a little bit different in that we're kind of going to our strengths, as opposed to you go to Royal Ascot and you're kind of playing their game on the grass. Now, that said, Wesley Ward has kind of flipped the scenario a little bit with the 2-year-olds, because he has 2-year-old sprinters ready to roll, and so maybe he's bringing over something that is a little more of a specialty than is thought of over there with the 2-year-old sprinting. But a horse like Pizza Bianca and a horse like Tepin, yeah, again, you're kind of going against their strength, and to see these horses go over and be successful, or with Pizza Bianca potentially be successful, it just adds, again, fun storylines to a really nice week of racing across the pond, as it were. And just before we go to break, did want to pull up Tampa Bay ended last week, and last Sunday's show, I guess they kind of went over the human side of things with Sammy Camacho being the leading jockey, Gerald Bennett being the leading trainer at Tampa. Subsequently, they have, added up the figures and whatnot, and the handle and the purse gains were pretty significant. They compared both to last year and then going back to pre-pandemic with the numbers. And this season's live all sources handle for the 89 days of racing, a 1.72 increase from last season, but going back to pre-pandemic, it was an 18+% boost. So putting up pretty good numbers over the past few seasons, nice improving numbers down at Tampa. And as far as the purse money paid out was well over $18 million. That was up 8% from last year and 17% from the pre-pandemic 2018-2019 season. So putting up some pretty good numbers. And the article I read that kind of recapped the season mentioned the human leaders and whatnot. They also mentioned apprentice jockey Madeleine Rowland, who had a really nice meet down there. The article describes her as a virtual overnight sensation. But the 18-year-old apprentice won 34 races while completing her high school education online. And subsequently, I had looked up on Equibase to see where she had moved on to, because maybe she'll be worth taking a look at other venues. She only has one entry coming up in the next few days. 5th race tomorrow at Pimlico. So I don't know whether that's going to be her game plan to be kind of mid-Atlantic, Maryland or whatnot. Maryland certainly has been, over the years, very productive for apprentices, so that wouldn't be a bad stop for her. But we'll have to keep our eyes on her. Madeleine Rowland, 18-year-old apprentice, who, again, had a pretty nice meet this year down at Tampa. All right, we will take another break. When we come back, as promised earlier, our friend Ellis Star, national racing analyst for Equibase. He'll join us. We'll take a look at some of the Belmont Stakes for this afternoon, and he's got a little preview tomorrow for a Woodbine stake as well with a pretty nice field. So all of that and more right after this. Stay tuned. Having trouble finding us? It's actually quite simple. Whether online or on your TV, it's never been easier to watch and wager on championship horse racing with Capital OTB. Simply log on to capitalotbbet.com. There you can watch our morning shows, live stream races, and wager on our state-of-the-art wagering platform. You can also watch from the comfort of your home on Spectrum Cable Channel 1250 or Fios Channel 467, and win more with Capital OTB.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Oops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. In front, but here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Bob. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a three-horse photo finish to the turn. Here's the one.
Welcome back to Racing Across America, and we'll do a little racing across North America today as well with our friend Ellis Star. We're going to take a look at a nice stake tomorrow at Woodbine towards the end of the interview, but we are joined now by the national racing analyst for Equibase and more, Ellis Star. Ellis, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. Good morning, racing fans. Happy week after Derby.
Yeah, happy to have you on board to talk a little bit about the stakes action today at Belmont and more. But yeah, you kind of alluded to it when you said week after the Derby. As we're now a week out, we are asking everybody some thoughts, and we were talking as we we're coming out of the break and we're kind of laughing about the results. And, everybody, because I'm on TV, as I walk around town up in the Saratoga area, people recognize me and everybody is kind of scratching their head. That said, I'm also surprised at the people who either had it or a friend had it, but, played some kind of crazy combination and wound up with Rich Strike. But we're going to take a look at the stretch run here. Mid-stretch, I'm in clover. I'm going up to the windows because I liked Epicenter. I had Zandon and Simplification in my triple mix, so I'm feeling pretty good. But then on the inside, number 21, Rich Strike comes up and upsets the apple cart. Give us some of your thoughts on last weekend's Derby.
Well, certainly Speed Crown and Summers Tomorrow didn't do themselves any favors. And, you just knew at that point it was going to be the stalkers, and usually horses in the top two in the stretch, and everybody else kind of hit the wall, the ones that do well. And I was counting my money because Zandon at 6-1 I thought was a tremendous overlay. I had noticed in Taba because he'd only run against 6 and 7 horse fields, and I thought he'd come unglued in 20 horse field. He was just not seasoned, and I was counting some money too. You got to hand it to Sonny Leon for just a perfect ride on the rail, taking advantage of the pace and just inhaling. He did actually run a little faster in the last quarter than the other quarter before. They decelerate. Almost always horses decelerate on the dirt. And he did, but he did pick it up in the stretch, and, he ran that race. And, even though he wasn't also eligible, he did drill in. I did look at those races. He just didn't tick any boxes off of those. You had to make a big case for a horse, running in a maiden claimer early on, and then these last two with the kind of nondescript races, even though he did finish. So he could clunk in, but I couldn't see it as a winner. Epicenter ran a fantastic race. Stalking, making the lead. Zandon was never going by him, even though I thought he was going to about the 8th hole. But he dug in and held off Zandon. So, really, really exciting. And now we got an interesting Preakness since the winner's going to pass. And, Secret Oath is going to be in. And she was so impressive getting back to form after facing the Colts, winning the Kentucky Oaks.
I'm going to be really interested to see what Rich Strike does from here on out. They're heading to the Belmont. To me, this was the flukiest of fluky results. And you kind of said it. You looked at the PPs, and it didn't tick any boxes, is to say the least. And I go back, and I mentioned this a couple times already since the Derby, mentioned it on the handicapping show earlier. Going back to Giacomo, I actually liked Giacomo. I had him in the future pool and played a little of him on Derby Day, and he had placed in some Santa Anita stakes going against pretty good horses. Mind That Bird, another big price in the Derby, had some 2-year-old stakes wins on his resume. There were things you could make a case for with some of those long prices in previous years. Boy, this horse was tough to make the case for. And as I say, I just think it was a really fluky result. I'm going to have a tough time going back to Rich Strike in the future.
Yeah, I'm not picking on him. I mean, the horses on the top 3 in their preps do pretty well in the Derby. He's like 45 out of the last 50 winners, and top 2 is even higher. And he was 3rd and 3rd, but he was 3rd and beaten double digits in those races. So it was freakish. And not taken away from him, but, Calumet thought he wasn't worth much. They put him in a maiden claimer, and they assessed his value at the time. And, he'd kind of just clucked in, had 21 points because of his couple of finishes in points races. Time will tell for sure. Breeding, Keen Ice got his 2nd career win in the Travers. He was 0 for 9 after his maiden win. So, people can make the case, he had the breeding and the pace. Yeah, but it's still, he was 80-1 for a reason. If you run the race 100 times, let's put it in perspective, a horse like this is going to win 2% of the time. But every race is a one-off. So this was one of those 2 in 100 where a horse like this could win. It doesn't mean it's totally impossible. It just means it's highly improbable. And that's not taken away from him. And certainly the race shape helps. But there are other horses that could have closed as good. And like I say, and there's no taking away from the other 3 as well. Simplification a little further back, but Zandon and Epicenter, they ran races that would win the Derby, maybe 50 out of 100 times.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Any other thoughts on the weekend? Secret Oath comes out of the Kentucky Oaks. Yep. She now heads to the Preakness. She's going to be fun. Bill Mott, I think, has to have a big smile on his face this year as his barn is nicely loaded. Speaker's Corner didn't run on the weekend, but Olympiad and Obligatory added to the strength of his barn. Jackie's Warrior looked good as well. Any other thoughts on the weekend?
Well, Olympiad now is a multiple Grade 2 winner, so I mean, this is a nice horse coming into the handicap season. Don't know if he can get 10 furlongs. We'll have to see, but certainly by Mott, you got to do it. And we'll talk about another horse in the same caliber, I think, when we talk about the Peter Pan coming out of California. But yeah, it was just some impressive races. I was surprised. Jack Christopher coming back from that layoff.
Yeah.
Is one of those things where he either fires or he didn't. Jackie's Warrior as well. The speed horses did well. Obligatory was nice. There were a couple interesting outcomes, but nothing, I think, significant except for Secret Oath. As he said, Secret Oath's got the jump on Nest. Louis Saez did his job, and now I think she'll love the Preakness. Shades of Rachel Alexander. I think she can do the Oaks Preakness double here.
And we were talking during the break, as I noted, and you were down at Louisville last weekend?
Yes.
So just give me a feel for what it was like the 2 days. I mean, post-pandemic, and everybody was back in full strength. And it seemed like, I'm curious what your thoughts were like on Thursday as I read Twitter and whatnot. I think people were really expecting some weather on Friday, and for the most part, that was avoided. Saturday was great. So it seemed like a really nice 2 days of racing weather-wise and certainly on the track.
It was incredible. I wasn't there Thursday. I was there Thursday night downtown, and at that point, we all thought it would be like a quarter inch of rain every 4 hours. And it never materialized. I was on the backstretch in the morning. It was cloudy. It rained a little bit overnight. There were a few drizzles. The weather handicappers, and thankfully the weather handicappers, really misjudged the favorite in that case. They really did. Badly bet the favorite. And then, it was a little low. I think people stayed away because perhaps still concerns about COVID, also concerns about the weather. So, 100 and change on Friday and then 140 on Saturday. The atmosphere was absolutely unbelievable. It was as good as I've ever seen in a Derby. I think I've missed 2 since 2003. And it was just as good as ever. Just everybody having a good time. The energy level, the scream when the first horse came out of town for the Derby, cheering for the horses, no matter what, not just the winner, not just to be bet on them or not. And it was a very tolerable crowd. I think it was just fantastic couple days of racing. And, of course, it showed in the handle with an all-time record, and, of which very little of it, maybe 10 or 20%, is bet on track. So it's the rest of the country and the world that really took to that, the cards that were set out for those 2 days.
Yeah, the NBC numbers were very good as well, so all very good to see. And speaking of great day of racing, really good day of racing down at Belmont today. We're going to delve into some of these stakes this afternoon down at Belmont. Why don't we kick things off with the Man of War. Grade 1 event, $700,000 up for grabs, 1 3/8 miles. It's a short field, but it's a very nice field. I'm going to pull up the replay from the Pan American. I like Gufo on this day, and he does get it done in his 5-year-old seasonal debut and gets it done pretty nicely as well. I like him this afternoon over Yibir, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but that's a pretty talented runner coming in from Europe, having won the Breeders' Cup Turf last year at Del Mar. I'm going to be interested to see what these two horses go off at as compared to the morning line, as Yibir is the even money favorite over 7-5 Gufo on the morning line. I'm going to be curious to see where the betting public goes. Where did you go in the Man of War?
Well, for me, this is more of a pick 3 starting race because I think it's a great sequence, and I have no knock on this race itself. I actually put on one of my blogs, and of course, people could follow me at Twitter, at Ubercapper on Twitter, and see some of those blogs. And I think Gufo is a bet at 3-2 or better, only because 7-5 is right about that. If Yibir gets bet heavier, the exacta for me, I'll just skip that, is Gufo and Yibir over a bond. I'm not going to box Gufo and Yibir just to mess around, but mostly a pick 3 for me. And it's really intriguing because last year, Gufo came into this race in which he lost by a nose, rallying from 14 back. And he came into this race off a layoff since the previous November. Well, this year he's got a race in the books. And that race, of course, was the Pan American with Rosario, who took over fourth, starting with the Man of War, and has been up for him for 7 straight races. So that's interesting in that he's going to be more fit this year than last year, and that might give him the slight edge over Yibir, even though they're both weighted top at 124. And Yibir's done nothing wrong since the Breeders' Cup. He lost by a neck in the Dubai Shima Classic, and then he ran second in the Jockey Club Stakes at Newmarket. both on good tracks. I think would be firm at Belmont unless the rain comes. So he did very well, of course, at Del Mar. Last year, he won the Jockey Club Derby at Belmont, so he's already got a win over the track before he shipped to California to win the Breeders' Cup. He doesn't have a U.S. race this year, but he has a race last month, so it's about the same. I think Gufo having the second off the layoff. But Bond is interesting because he made the lead in the Pan American and then got run down. And I think he can make the lead in the Pan American. And just in case Gufo or Ibir doesn't come in first, second, I think he's 4-1, 9-2. I mean, he's 9 for 12 for second in his career. So he's a good exact horse. But I'm starting off some pick threes and doubles here with Gufo and Ibir. I'm not taking some favorites in a couple of decks legs, so I think there's some value in these doubles and pick threes.
Yeah, okay. Now I'm intrigued to move on to. I was intrigued to move on to the Peter Pan to begin with because I think this is a fun race. I'm interested to see which direction you go. Peter Pan's a Grade 3 event, $200,000 up for grabs. The one-turn mile and 1/8 at Belmont, and traditionally it's maybe horses that are a little bit later developing on the 3-year-old scene. Typically will come out of this with 1 or 2 potential horses moving on to the Belmont. I think all of that plays into this year as well. I pulled up a replay from an allowance optional claimer at Aqueduct on April 8th. Number 3 here is going to be Electability for Chad Brown and Klarovich. This was the second win in a row, the second win in 3 career starts. I'm tilting slightly in that direction, but We the People, I think, can rebound, and I think the horse is better than we saw in the Arkansas Derby. Set Sail for Richard Mandela is intriguing. Golden Glider for Mark Cassie. I think this one is better than we saw maybe in the Bluegrass, and there's a couple others in here that wouldn't be a total shock, but as I say, I'm intrigued to see what direction you're going to go in the Peter Pan.
Yeah, this is a great race, and I know it's always for late developing horses. 3 horses coming out of maidens, and another 2 coming out of allowance races. I'll just be honest. I eliminated Complete Agenda, Golden Glider, Cook Creek, and State Planning. They're too slow or too unseasoned in my opinion. And I looked at the rest, and I have to start with Western River. That's because he's 6-1. That's the reason, and that's really the only reason. Here's a horse that had not a great campaign as a 2-year-old last year, 7th, 7th, and 2nd, but one was a race scheduled for turf and off turf. The next 2 were turf. For whatever reason, when he came back this year, they tried him on dirt, and his first race he rallied from 10 back to be beaten 3/4, and the second was almost a 4-length win in a 9-horse field at Oaklawn. We know how salty those races at Oaklawn were, and he got the best Equibase speed figure in the field, 98 of any horse in the race. This year, except Golden Glider, is 4th place in Tampa Derby, and that doesn't mean much to me. Or We the People's win in his allowance race at Oaklawn as well. So basically, We the People, who's 3-1, ran as fast as Western River ran as fast as We the People, but he's 6-1 versus 3-1. He's on a better pattern. Third off the layoff. Also, I looked this up. Western River is a full brother to Creator. So the mile and 1/8 is not going to be a problem. He could win the Belmont. I mean, Creator won the 2016 Belmont and the Arkansas Derby. So I think this is a really nice horse, and 6-1's a bargain. Then we got to spot Set Sail. Dick Mandela hardly ever ships out of California. He has to have the goods if he ships out of California. And this horse is Malibu Moon out of Medallia de Oro mare. There's no question the distance. Mandela just shows why he's in the Hall of Fame. First time out, educational, 3rd place, 7 furlongs. Stretched out to a mile, won by 7 lengths. And don't forget Mandela would have had probably one of the favorites in the Derby if Forbidden Kingdom hadn't got injured and had a breathing problem, injured breathing problem, I should say, in the San Diego Derby. Here's a really late improving horse. A very interesting stat for Mandela in the last 5 years. He's only had 7 horses going from maiden to stakes. He's won 3 of them, 3-year-olds only. He just really knows, like Belmont, knows when to move it up. At 3-1's a value. So the main play for the doubles and pick threes are going to be the 1 and the 6. And the second ticket I'm playing 2 is going to be the Set Sail and Western River, the 1 and the 6, plus Electability, the 2, and We the People. My exact is just going to be a key Set Sail and Western River over Set Sail, Western River, Electability, and We the People. I have no real knock on We the People, but after that bomb in the dead, I should say, in the Arkansas Derby, really has to show he can rebound. He's not on the same pattern that I'm looking for. And Electability ran good, but he only got a 90 Equibase figure, and it's a little low compared to Set Sail and Western River. I always assume with 3-year-old Seth that if they all improve about the same rate, then the horse that already has the faster numbers is going to continue to have the faster numbers. That's why I like Western River and Set Sail.
Yeah, to be honest, I did not use Western River, but as you were talking and looking at the two dirt races, I'm a little more intrigued in that one. So I may have to take an extra look at that this afternoon. When I'm on TV this afternoon, I will tout your thoughts on that one as well for folks, because I do think that's a little bit interesting. All right, let's move on to the
and the breeding. The breeding is really intriguing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I see he's full of creators.
10th race this afternoon is the Bogey Grade 3 event, $150,000. This is a nice field for a Grade 3. Mile and a 16th on the grass. I'm going to pull up the stakes race for Rozier, the stakes race from Arc Day last October. She is going to be in the yellow sleeve and cap, and as the two horses come down to the wire, she'll be on the outside here and just get the victory. And again, this is a Group 1 on Arc Day. That is notable. Subsequently came over and tried the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf and kind of tossed in a clunker there with some traffic. But she is going to be very tough. I'm going to tilt towards Lamista, same owner-trainer, as Rozier with Peter Brandt and Chad Brown, but I'm going to tilt slightly in that direction. I'm going to be intrigued to see what Plum Ali can do. I think that horse probably has to step it up. I don't think that's out of the question, but what are your thoughts on the Bogey?
Well, this is why I like this pick 3, because I'm starting with the two, probably heavy favorites in Gufo and Yabir in the 8th, and then 4 deep in the 9th on one ticket, 2 on the other. I'm taking a complete stand against the Chad Browns. I don't, and I'm not doing it just because of price. I'm doing it, I think, for reasons. First of all, Rozier didn't run a lick in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf, coming off the Prix de l'Opera, Longines win. I'm not sure she likes firm turf.
Yeah.
You look at her 2 races in Europe; they were firm. She got that, and she's not going to like to hear her feet rattle. And plus you got the layoff. She's working fine. She's got the class. I just have to question it, and I certainly question the odds. And then Lamista, she ran this race last year off a layoff. Brown got big numbers off the layoff, and yet she only got 2nd. She didn't run that fast. 8th in the Diana, 3rd in the Beverly D, and again, big layoff. I know Irad's riding. I know she's got some class, but why bet these 2 horses at low odds? I'm going to use Stolen Holiday and Plum Alley. Stolen Holiday, very intriguing for me. The last race, the Sand Springs, I watched the video, the short comments, and our chart callers do a great job for folks out there. You see a short comment, go watch the video if you can. Bumped over upper traffic 1/8. She could not be ridden most of the last 1/8 of a mile. She was stuck behind horses. She couldn't stretch her out. She couldn't do anything there. When she got right near the end, she spurted from 4th to 2nd. Her first race of the year was a 2nd 11 allowance at Tampa. She won by 6 with a 107 Equibase speed figure. So put it in perspective, when Lamista ran 3rd in the Beverly D last year, she earned a 112. That was her best. Rozier's got a 111 for a race before the Prix d'Opera and a 121, but who knows what she can do. That 107 figure for Plum Ally is the best of any horse in the race, and it was this year. And then last time she couldn't be ridden, and Javier's going to ride her back. He was up for her 1X win on the Inner Turf at Belmont, even though it was 6 furlongs. But, this mile on 16th at Belmont is almost a one-turn race. So I think 8-1 is pretty good. And then Plum Ally, as you mentioned, you can't knock her. 5 for 12, 2 wins in a row. Her last race of 2021 and her first race as a 4-year-old this year. Only to the Manny Franco rode her. She also won the Miss Grillo as a 2-year-old on the Belmont turf at this distance on the Inner Turf. So she's got that history. 2nd off a layoff. 107 figure also last time out. She's 6-1. I mean, I have no problem with these 2. I'm going to bet them both to win because I think 5-2 are better to play. I'm going to box them in the exacta, and I'm hoping for a nice pick 3 here.
Yeah, I think those are both live horses. I have no real arguments there. I think it's a very intriguing race. All right, and let's take a look at one for tomorrow as well. This is at Woodbine, and you have on the Woodbine site. You have selections, yes?
Yes, race of the day. If you go to Woodbine, the handy expert picks, I fair they call it, or just Google Ellis Star Woodbine every day. Race of the day. I try and pick a allowance or a stakes, and this one came up great with a 10-horse field. But yep, every day at Woodbine.com.
Yeah, and again, this is tomorrow's feature, but boy, it's a nice race.
Yep.
The Jacques Cartier Grade 3 event, $150,000, 6 furlongs, and this was the purview of the venerable Pink Floyd for a while as he won the race 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, but last year ran 2nd. The former Horse of the Year up there, Pink Lloyd. We're going to take a look at last year's Cartier, and Pink Lloyd is going to be the number 2 horse, but will be beaten by number 5 Super Stonehenge, and we're replaying this because Pink Lloyd no longer in the race, but Super Stonehenge is in the race tomorrow. Silent Poet also in here. This is a nice field of 10, nice competitive field of 10. What are your thoughts on tomorrow's Cartier at Woodbine?
Yeah, it's a great betting race. Absolutely. 10 horses. Pink Lloyd owned this race for so many years. And, I'm going to start with the 6 Arzak. I think he's the 3-1 second choice. Super Stonehenge certainly is good, but he's making his first start of the year. Now he's 6. There's no guarantee he's going to run as well. Off the layoff. Last year when he came back from actually he ran through the year because he was in the he wintered at Belmont and Aqueduct and Gulfstream, but the year before he ran 7th in his comeback. He's working well. He's 1-3 for Cassie, but 5-2 I can skip him. Arzak, on the other hand, is a really nice horse. He's a not this time, and we saw 2 or 3 of them right in the Derby. He cost $575 at auction. He's 4 for 12. He's got 1 win on the grass. But what I like about this is Mike Trombetta, just a really sharp trainer. But Arzak is 3 for 5 on synthetic, which is going to be on the Tapeta. He's such a sharp trainer. He shipped him up opening week or second week to run in the Thorncliffe Stakes. It was his first start as a 4-year-old, and he drew off and won by 3 really easily. He had also run at Woodbine back in November of 2020 as a 2-year-old. He won that by 3, so he likes the all-weather at Woodbine. Jockey Kazushi Kimura is already hot as heck. He's 14 for 66. He's 28 for 66 first or second of the meet. Rides him. I think he's going to move forward off that race. The other horse is Striker, who is a really lightly raced horse. He's war front out of a Tappet mare. He won both his starts last year at Woodbine. He's trained by Josie Carroll, who's just a phenomenal trainer. She's got 2 wins and 3 starts at the meet. And he was scratched out of a race at Keeneland to basically April to freshen up and run here. So he's got a big shot. Those are the top 2 picks. 4 at 6. I'm adding the 5 Tappet to win. If you go to, again, Woodbine and see my picks. Tappet to win also had a race this year. He ran in a race at Tampa, Little Stakes, and made the lead and got beat in neck. So he's got a shot. But it is a really deep race. It's a great race. I hope everybody watches it. Post time is 4:59 p.m. tomorrow. It's race 8 at Woodbine.
Yeah, and just the Trombetta elects to ship up. I mean, he's a Maryland, Mid-Atlantic-based guy, and he's now elected to ship up there twice and won both times, including that season debut back in the middle of April. Arzak, on that angle alone, very, very intriguing. Ellis, as always, appreciate the conversation. Always fun to get a little preview and a little review and some of your thoughts. So we wish you good luck over the weekend, and we'll talk again down the road.
Thanks, Seth. Everybody have a great day.
Appreciate it. Ellis Star, National Racing Analyst for Equibase. And as noted, you can find his selections at the Woodbine site and other racetracks around. Follow him at Uber Capper on Twitter, and that'll point you in direction to some of his work as well. I am going to wrap it up for this Saturday edition of Racing Across America. Be back in an hour and a half or so for OTB Live for Saturday afternoon. We'll take a look at some Belmont, some Monmouth. We'll plug one of the other tracks into the mix as well for this afternoon. Churchill is a evening card on this Saturday, so keep that in mind. Also keep in mind, if you're a Pick 6 player, there's a Pick 6 carryover at Belmont this afternoon, $39,000, I believe. So the Pick 6 carryover at Belmont, if you're attracted to that wager. Otherwise, again, I'll wrap it up. We appreciate Ellis visiting. We'll catch up with Brian Bouillet down the road, and again, get a little update on the 2022 class of the Hall of Fame, including Tepin and Beholder. Otherwise, going to wrap it up. We'll be back in tomorrow at 10 a.m. for Racing Across America, as we usually do, a little recap of action and more, so you can plug that into your calendar for tomorrow. But today, we'll be back in, as I say, about an hour and a half or so for OTB Live for a Saturday afternoon. I'm Seth Merrow. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you later.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.